everyone. Here we are in rainy Austria in Spielberg at the Red Bull Ring. The weather conditions are completely different compared to yesterday, because yesterday was sunny and chilly. Today it's soaking wet. It's going to be very interesting, that's for sure. And the man who mastered the qualifying, who absolutely aced it, is Maro Engel. So obviously for you it's the perfect start in pole position. But quite frankly, now it's starting to rain a bit more. It's going to be a gamble, isn't it?
It's going to be tricky for sure, but anyway, yeah, starting at the front is definitely the best place to start. So yeah, we're hoping for a clean race. For sure it'll be a challenging one, but it'll be the same for everyone. So
absolutely. But in regards to the qualifying, I mean, you know what it's like out there, and because it's such a roller coaster feeling here at the Red Bull Ring, what do you expect in regards to grip, visibility?
Hopefully clean visibility for me from the front, and then I mean it depends on the quantity of water. I mean right now it's raining a bit heavier again, but the forecast says a little bit less rain. We'll see what's going to happen, but that's going to dictate whether we have aquaplaning or not. If there's a lot of water, then we'll have some aquaplaning. If there's less water, the race will probably dry out.
Good point. All right, well, let's hope for the best. Best of luck for the race. I know that Maro just got a big kiss from his wife, so hopefully that's a good omen for everything, and good luck. And now here's your commentator.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Welcome everybody then to the Red Bull Ring for day 2, race 2, as the championship heads towards boiling point. My name's Chris Hartley. I'll talk you through the action today. They're a very busy grid of cars after a very, very wet qualifying session this morning, which saw several cars going off the road and several red flags. But Maro Engel, with a very early lap in the session, setting that pole position time, his maiden DTM pole, and he becomes the 10th different pole sitter of the year. Nick Cassidy qualified 3rd, but will start 2nd. That's because Maximilian Gutz is one of the drivers with a grid penalty. So he qualified 2nd, the reigning champion, but drops back down to 5th place. And another driver with a huge penalty for track limits offences from yesterday's race is Sheldon van der Linde. So he had a 9-place grid drop and will start this race, the championship leader, back in 15th spot on the grid. Leon Kohler, Rolf Inaischen and Dev Gore, other drivers that have got grid penalties for track limits offences in the race yesterday. So, Maro Engel on pole position. Nick Cassidy, who is the driver on form at the moment with his back-to-back race wins and good qualifying performances, is going to start the race alongside Mercedes versus Ferrari. It will be into turn 1. Let's head back down onto the grid now and get more from Verena.
I've got René Rast here, who's starting in P9, and he's 2nd in the championship. You're 13 points behind Sheldon van der Linde, and it's going to be exciting till the end, I think, that's for sure. You were just looking into the clouds, so what is your expectation for the weather? What are you hoping for? I mean, it's wet, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's wet, but nobody knows what's going to happen. We expect some more rain for the next 10 minutes, and then it should stop raining, but we don't know if it's going to dry up or not. So, yeah, it's a bit of a guessing game at the moment, but for sure now it's wet and it's raining.
Absolutely, and I mean, being in the middle of the field, kind of, P9 is going to be pretty tricky for the race, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's still better than P18 or 19, but we still have like 8 cars in front of us, which will do a lot of spray. So the visibility in the first 2 laps will be critical and not easy. But yeah, it's better to be here than in the back of the grid.
Absolutely. Well, René, best of luck for the race.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to go down, because on P12 we've got Lukas Auer, and that's going to be even trickier for him because he's 3rd in the championship. He's 20 points behind Sheldon van der Linde, and Bortolotti also has 20 points behind Sheldon, but because Lukas has 1 more, that means that he's he's 3rd in the championship. I've got Luki right here, and he seems to be in very good spirits, smiling and obviously being very optimistic for the race, right?
Yeah, I'm smiling because I get some hard words already. No.
Meaning what exactly?
I'm too far in the back, too slow. I said it's a long race, let's wait.
It's definitely a long race. You're starting from P12, and I mean, you've got 20 points behind Sheldon, and you really need to push hard in order to close the gap. How are you going to do it?
Push hard, try to overtake some cars, and will be a long race. Let's see how the weather evolves.
All right, thank you so much,
Thank
Luki.
you.
Best of luck for the race, and let's just try if we can still grab the leader of the championship, who's Sheldon van der Linde. He's starting in P15, so that's, where is that? That's over here. Let's see if we can find him. Obviously, with all the people here. We've got so many fans, despite the terrible weather conditions. Everybody's here and they're supporting their drivers. And I mean, DTM fans just love the drivers and they're absolutely the best. So it's packed here. And we've got Sheldon right there. So let's see. Sheldon, how's he doing today? I mean, obviously starting from P15 is going to be so tricky. But then again, it's raining. So maybe that's going to be a good chance for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our car is way better in the wet today than it was yesterday in the dry, at least. So that gives me a lot of hope for today. Obviously not ideal with the track limits penalty from yesterday, but just kind of thinking ahead now already and trying to visualize the start and how that's going to play out, because I think it's going to be tricky. Obviously, if it's still raining, with so many cars going to turn 1 and turn 3, it's going to be very hard to just get through without any damage. So that's obviously my goal. Absolutely.
And it says that in the next 10 minutes it's hopefully going to stop raining and then dry up a bit. So it's going to be tricky nonetheless, right?
Yeah, I'm actually hoping that it continues to rain because, like I said, our car is more competitive in the rain this weekend. But yeah, obviously I can't control the weather. I'm just going to have to do my best to kind of execute everything the best that we can in the pit stops and stuff. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good race. Renee's in 9, so I have my work cut out for me. I know exactly where to go. And yeah, it's going to be a fun race.
All right, Sheldon, best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we're getting ready to get racing here in Spielberg at the Red Bull Ring. We're absolutely psyched. And here's a commentator. Do enjoy.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating race, this. So absolutely right what René Rast said. The satellite forecast is that the rain will carry on for another 5 or 10 minutes, and then it's going to go away, and it's going to should not rain for the rest of the race, shouldn't rain for the rest of the afternoon. But that's going to throw other problems to the drivers and the teams, because if it stops raining, the track's going to eventually dry out. And then what do you do with your pit stop strategy? Presumably you try and leave it as late as possible in case you do need to switch to dry tyres. I mean, nobody knows how quickly the track is going to dry out. It's cold, so it will dry out slower than it would on a hot day, but it could be that there'll be a dry line towards the end of the race, and then maybe slick tyres might become an option, as strange as that sounds to say, given the conditions we've got now. But 55-minute plus 1 lap race is a long time. We've got 27 cars mopping up the surface water, so it could just be you want to push your pit stop window till the very end so that you don't have to change tyres twice. If you change tyres, the mandatory pit stop as soon as the pit stop window opens, then you might have to come in again and make a second stop if it does dry out. So, and then the other thing is for the drivers and the setup. How do you set the cars up? Really wet conditions now, but it might be damp or drying later in the race. So I guess you need a car that's going to be up there early on in the race to keep you matched with your rivals, especially those championship contenders. Maro Engel looking pretty relaxed when his only DTM race in the Class 1 era, when he was first in the championship in 2017 in Russia. Can he get a second race victory? There is Gerhard Berger, a legend of Austria and the ITR chairman, a former Grand Prix racer, and he's delivered some fantastic racing for us. We had some great battles yesterday, that's for sure. And they're from Red Bull, who of course own the circuit here since 2011. Dr. Helmut Marko alongside, enjoying what's been a fascinating weekend here with a tremendous crowd, especially yesterday in the dry conditions. It was absolutely packed. So all the fans well looked after here, and well done to the fans for braving the conditions so far. They get a wave from the two gentlemen on the grid as the drivers start to get ready now. In terms of the circuit itself, I spoke to Maro Engel after he got his pole position this morning, and he said to me the trickiest part of the circuit, no doubt about it, is the run through turn 2. So up the hill out of turn 1. They've put in a new chicane for MotoGP, but they've resurfaced the track there up towards turn 2 and the climb up the hill. And he said that is draining less well than other areas of the circuit. So during the really wet part of qualifying, which was especially towards the end of qualifying, because it got wetter and wetter, he said you're just aquaplaning through there, you're just dancing around, and it's very easy to run off the road. He said that was the most tricky part. He also said to me, you know, I knew I needed to get a lap in early because anything can happen in that session. Red flags, which was proven to be the case. The weather, we were expecting to get worse. He said, so I just took some risks in my hot lap, and he put that lap in very early on in the session. Nobody was able to beat it. Lots of drivers, I'm sure, will be a bit miffed that the red flags came out, because lots of people were on a good lap when they had the red flags, which eventually brought the session to a slightly premature close. So Maro Engel getting the boots dried, that's another thing you have to do. Make sure you've got as much grip on your race boots as you can when you get into the car. So Maro preparing then to lead them away. It's going to be 2 formation laps that we'll get for the race. And as ever, the race distance here at the Red Bull Ring will be 55 minutes plus 1 lap. It's all building up towards a crescendo with just 3 races to go now in the championship. The 7th weekend of the DTM season brings us to Austria and the beautiful surroundings of the Styrian Mountains. The area is in the northeast of the country. It's 200 kilometres or so from Vienna, and it's in the small town of Spielberg that we find one of the most popular racetracks on the calendar. The circuit first opened as the Österreichring back in 1969, and it's evolved and changed shape over the years. In 2011, it was bought by Dietrich Mateschitz and redeveloped as the Red Bull Ring. The brand's huge involvement in motorsport visible on the entrance to the circuit, including the 2010 championship winning Formula One car. And access to the paddock is by the fantastic Walk of Legends. The weather then is going to play its part. The rain should stop. It's a wet track for now. How wet will it be? How wet will it stay? The drivers are going to get 2 formation laps to try and find out. The temperature a little bit warmer than it was in qualifying, but not much. Only a couple of degrees warmer at 11 degrees. The track temperature's gone up a little from 9.5 degrees to 12.2, but it's a cold day here in September, and the clouds starting to bite. It's a lot brighter than it was certainly an hour ago. There were some doubts as whether we would start the race on time, but the rain has gone away just in time. So Maro Engel on pole position, but of the championship contenders, you've heard from René Rast, of the top 4 in the championship, he's the best placed on the grid, and he's back in 9th spot. There, the championship standings, with 130 points for Sheldon van der Linde. René Rast, who was 34 points behind at the start of the weekend, now only 13 points behind. Lucas Auer was reinstated in 4th place last night. If you were watching the race yesterday, he had a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. The team handed in some GPS data. It was seen, it was checked, and it was found that he didn't speed in the pit lane, so he got his 4th place back. The 10-second penalty was rescinded, and Thomas Prining was given a 10-second penalty in the race for contact with Nico Müller. The officials and the stewards looked at that and the team's evidence afterwards. They found that neither driver was especially to blame, and therefore that was rescinded as well, and Tommy Prining was given back his 5th place. So that has put or kept Lucas Auer up there in the top 3 of the championship. Mirko Bortolotti on the same points as Farina said, but hasn't yet won a race. But he did get his first podium since the 4th weekend of the season at the Norris Ring, with a 3rd place finish yesterday. But the car looked a handful in the wet conditions earlier on. Mirko, one of the drivers that got into trouble on the curbs and kissed the gravel trap and had a half spin and almost got collected by a couple of other cars, including Nico Müller, but just about got away with it. Felipe Fraga was another one off the road, but he avoided the barriers. We had Devgor out and brought about a red flag. Right at the start of the session, we had a red flag with about 30 seconds on the clock when Michael Grenier went off the road. So he's going to start at the back of the grid because he didn't get an actual lap in qualifying. 2 formation laps there, as you can see on the graphic, because of the conditions, to give the drivers a chance to get used to things for safety reasons. Then it'll be a rolling start, 55-minute plus 1 lap race. So Sheldon van der Linde has led the championship since the Lausitz Ring, since the 2nd weekend of the season. But René Rast coming strong of late, and Lucas Auer up there as well. Mirko Bortolotti 20 points covering the top 4 in the championship. Thomas Prining up to 5th place now. He's only 39 points behind in the championship and has qualified pretty well in 7th place on the grid. So we've got potential 26 points available in this race. 25 points if you win, a bonus point if you get the fastest lap of the race, and then we'll still have another 52 points available from the 2 races at Hockenheim, plus a potential extra 6 points from qualifying. So 58 points available at the end of this race. So it is going to go down to the wire. Engines fired up then. The 1-minute board is held aloft. This is going to be an absolutely fascinating race. We've had 10 different pole sitters in the championship so far this year. It is only the 7th weekend of the season. We've already had 9 different winners. We've only had Sheldon van der Linde and Nick Cassidy now that have won more than 1 race this season. Cassidy making a late charge at the order, but also really helping his team, the Red Bull AlphaTauri AF Corsa team, to move up the championship standings after a difficult first half of the season. So they are closing fast now. Still very much involved, the defending champions in the team's championship. Schubert Motorsport have got 175 points. Abt Sportsline have got 142. And Red Bull AlphaTauri AF Corsa up to 3rd now, 129. So there's only 46 points between the 3 of them. And with your 2 cars, you can score up to 43 points in a race, and you can score up to 5 points in qualifying. So that championship is going to go down to Hockenheim as well. Audi have their noses in front in the manufacturer's standings, but they're only 37 points clear of Mercedes, so that one looks like it's going to go down to the wire as well at Hockenheim in 2 weeks' time. So they head off onto the first of 2 formation laps. Maro Engel on pole position, Nick Cassidy alongside. Felipe Fraga will start third, with Philip Eng for company on road 2. The defending champion, Maximilian Gotz, had his best qualifying of the year, was second fastest, but with a 3-place grid penalty for track limits yesterday, starts 5th. Arjun Maini, starting in 6th place, shares the 3rd row of the grid. Row 4, we got Thomas Prining, who was so entertaining yesterday. He's got his dad Andy's family and friends here this weekend supporting him. Comes from Linz, which is just about 180 kilometres from the circuit, and one of the 4 Austrian drivers in the field. And David Schumacher, a great qualifying for the young German. In 8th place, he will start at 4th row of the grid. And then it's the first of the big title contenders. René Rast starting 9th. Ricardo Feller, his teammate at Abt, starts 10th. And then on the 6th row, we've got Lucas Stoltz and Lucas Hauer, the driver 3rd in the championship standings. That's your 6th row. Your 7th row, Leon Kohler, who's done fantastically well in his first weekend of DTM. And Nico Muller, starting 14th, will be alongside him. Row 8, Sheldon van der Linde, 15th on the grid, but he was quick enough to qualify 6th fastest in the wet. And that was quicker in qualifying than any of his title rivals. So he's got this grid penalty, but he knows he's got a good car underneath him in these conditions, the South African. He starts 15th. Replay of the dramas already on the formation lap, and even on the formation lap, spins are possible. That's SSR Performance Porsche going around and round and getting back into the right direction, thanks to the big runoff area you've got at turn 3. Cold tyres, of course, as well, given the temperatures that we've got here. So Sheldon van der Linde 15th, Marco Vitman, double champion, 16th, Dennis Olsen, one of the SSR Performance Porsche drivers, 17th. Difficult day yesterday. Clement Schmidt, contact for him on that one as well. He got a puncture. He's 18th on the grid. Lawrence Van Toor and Max Buch are on the 10th row. Kelvin van der Linde with his worst qualifying of the year so far, 21st on the grid. Mirko Bortolotti, who is 4th in the championship, worst qualifying of the year. He starts 22nd on the grid. Marius Sugg and Alessio Deleda are on row number 12. Row 13, Dev Gore and Michael Grenier. And 27th, and on row 14, Rolf Inaischen, who picked up his first championship point with the Auto Hero fastest lap bonus point last time out at Spa. So the cars head out onto the second of the formation laps. A real chance for the drivers just to get their eye in here, just have a look at the circuit, see where there might be more areas of standing water, try to get some heat, generate some heat into the tyres and the brakes as well, which they'll need to be underneath them when they run into the first corner, the second gear turn at Niki Lauda turn. There then, the current point standings, both on 110, Bortolotti and Auer. Rast 117, van der Linde 130, 26 points up for grabs in this race. So at the end of this race, any one of those 4 drivers could head to Hockenheim as the championship leader with just 2 races to go. And there are others that are still very much involved mathematically in the championship fight as well. Maro Engel is not one of them, but he has a big chance here to try and get a race victory. Speaking to Mike Rockenfeller after qualifying, from a DTM champion who's working on German TV commentary this season, and his theory was that the Mercedes, with its sort of longer wheelbase, is maybe that just a bit more stable in the wet conditions, a bit less dancey, a bit less on the edge than some of the short wheelbase cars like maybe the Audi and the Porsche. And I think it's a good theory, that. So he did see the Mercedes going well, first and second in terms of times in qualifying. You had Arjun Maini and David Schumacher up there in the top 10 as well. But it's a track which is going to evolve and change as the race goes on. There'll be a lot of spray, there'll be a lot of surface water to start with, but what will be the case in 30 or 40 minutes' time? Well, we're all about to find out. Amato Ferrari there in the middle of the picture. Head of AF, of course, the founder of the team, the former racing driver, and the defending team's champions, with their man Nick Cassidy starting second, and their other man, Felipe Fraga, had more bad luck yesterday, starting third, as they continue to rise up the team's championship table. So we are all set to go racing for the second time this weekend. Round 14 of 16 for the 2022 DTM season. Maro Engel on pole position. just leading them round down into turn 10 then. Chris Hartley trackside to talk you through what's going to be another massive battle in the championship. 55 minutes plus 1 lap of racing then, and we now go at full speed with Maro Engel leading them away. Nick Cassidy right on his rear bumper going down into turn 1 then. The Ferrari can't get close enough. Fraga is under attack for 3rd place from Philipp Eng in the BMW. And just behind Philipp, you've got Maximilian Götz, who was, remember, 2nd quickest in these conditions in qualifying. And now Nick Cassidy with a good run up through this very tricky part of the course with the new surface. And to turn 2 they go, up towards the right-hander at turn 3, down to 1st gear. Cassidy has to go to the outside. The inside line is covered. Fraga ticks to the inside for 3rd place. The Eng BMW goes out wide, then cuts back in on the inside. Sheldon van der Linde going out wide and getting into a spin. The championship leader all the way around has to wait for the field to go through. Yellow flags wave. He gets on the throttle, but he's plumb last. So Sheldon van der Linde, the championship leader, survives. The car will be absolutely fine, but now things completely change. He's right at the back of the field, and we've got a challenge for the lead of the race here from Nick Cassidy. He's, as much as anything, just pulling to the left and right so you can see where he's going, because when he's right behind the Mercedes, his visibility will be next to zero. They come through the middle sector of the lap then. Engels managed to get himself into 3rd place ahead of Fraga while we were seeing Sheldon van der Linde. He got that cutback coming out of turn 3, and Fraga is now under pressure from the Mercedes of Maximilian Götz here. He gets better traction coming out of the turn, heading towards turn 9 over the crest, but no overtaking opportunity just yet for the reigning champion. He's looking for his first win of the season, having got his first podium of the season 2 weeks ago at Spa. So Fraga holds off Götz for now as they come out of turn 10 and complete the first lap of the race. Maro Engel has held on to the lead. Nick Cassidy has been pushing him hard though on that first lap of the race in the first of the Ferraris. Eng in 3rd place comes through the mist. 4th and 5th nose to tail, Fraga and Götz. And then we've got Arjun Maini and David Schumacher joining the party just behind. Tommy Prining is in the mix as well. Rennie Rast has survived the first lap without gaining but without losing any positions. He's in 9th place. Kelvin van der Linde coming under fire here from the Belgian driver Laurens van Toor. The Porsche going absolutely side by side with the Audi as they head up towards turn 2. On the way through the what normally is a flat-out left-hander at Munster turn, and then on the brakes they come here. We've got Lucas Auer going well out wide here, trying to hold on to his position. Sometimes the outside line gives more traction. You experiment with the racing lines because the dry lines can be slippier, can be trickier in these conditions. Top 5, top 6 stay as they were. Sheldon van der Linde last but 2. Grenier a non-starter in the end, so Dev Gore comes into the pit. So Sheldon van der Linde back in 25th place. Will it affect the way he goes about his pit stop strategy now? Will he try something different? Could really do with a safety car to get himself back on the pack, because he lost an awful lot of time recovering from that spin, waiting for the field to come through. And they get some idea of what the lack of visibility is going to be like here if you're in the middle of the pack. You get an onboard shot, you'll see just how poor the visibility is. Got to get as close as you can to the car in front, but not misjudge your braking, because Maxi Götz has another look up the inside of Felipe Fraga. They make their way through turns 9 into the right-hander at turn 10. Keeps having a look on the way to turn 9, the Jochen Rindt turn, but he's not able to get through there. Felipe Fraga knows the pressure is coming from the Mercedes, and the German driver now is going to try and creep around the outside on the way into turn 1. That would be a brave move. He's going to have his nose in front, but he's going to be on the wrong line. He will try and perhaps cut back up the inside. That option not given to him, because Felipe puts that car in exactly the right place, keeps the Ferrari ahead of the Mercedes, and now suddenly Arjun Maini, the Indian driver, is right onto the tail of Maxi Götz here as they battle for 5th and 6th positions respectively. Absolutely together, they disappear off into the spray. They're coming back into view in turn 3. Maini's on the outside, but he can't quite find a way through there. Rennie Rast goes out wide just behind in that next group of cars, and he might lose a position as well. He's behind, in fact, he's already fallen behind Ricardo Feller, so he's 10th now. He had Lucas Stoltz coming at him. Arjun Maini is coming back at Maxi Götz now as they go over the crest, down into the right-hander at Rauch turn 6. Bit deep into the corner goes Maxi Götz, but I think he's going to be able to keep Arjun Maini just about behind him as they go through turn 5. Downhill now, they wind their way into the left-hander at turn 6, and sure enough, the number 1 car holds on to that 5th place, just behind David Schumacher, looking for his first DTM points, having come close several times this season. He's been driving really well today in these conditions. He's there 7th, Thomas Prining in 8th, Ricardo Feller and Rennie Rast were just behind him. Rast lose a place in the end. No, he managed to keep Lucas Stoltz behind him in that yellow Mercedes. Then he got Lucas Auer out of the points at the moment in 13th place. Bortolotti who's equal to Lucas Auer on championship points, out of the points at the moment, back in 21st. Sheldon van der Linde obviously out of the points currently because he's had that spin on lap 1 and he's back in 25th position. But lapping well, he's just done the best lap of the race. So Sheldon van der Linde has got the bit between his teeth here to try and catch back up to the pack. A long way to go, because he's not over yet. Lots of different things can happen in this race still. Could be entirely unpredictable. So Engel, Cassidy, the top two, suddenly 2.2 seconds apart, because on that lap, Maro Engel, the race leader, 8/10 quicker than the first of the Ferraris. You've got Tommy Prining now in the Cus Team Bernhard Porsche, breathing down the neck of David Schumacher. Goes left, goes right. We saw some fantastic moves in the dry here, and it's enough to put David Schumacher off his line. David goes wide. We got 2 getting 3 abreast just behind as well. But I think Schumacher might lose the place here to Prining on the run down towards turn 6. Still side by side. The Porsche's got the inside line here. This is for 7th place, and he should, if he can get the car slowed down, go through up the inside all the way into turn 6, which is exactly what he does. So it wasn't quite the last of the late breakers like we saw in the dry conditions at turn 3 with those 3 moves on Nico Muller yesterday, but he just showed his nose. That was just enough to put David Schumacher a bit wide into the corner, and he was a bit looser on the throttle then coming out of the turn, and the Porsche with good traction then got the line, got the steal on him on the run to turn 6. So Prining up to 7th place, bit of a gap to try and close now to catch up to the Lutz-Mai battle, which is going on just ahead of him. Mandatory pit stop for everybody in this race, as always. The pit stop window opens after the completion of 10 minutes of the race, and you have to come in a half-hour period before the end of the 40th minute of this 55-minute race. That's your pit window. Everybody has to change tyres. There you can see the gap that Maro Engel has been able to develop. Confirmation that Sheldon van der Linde is the quickest man on track and starting to catch people up, but with a lot of work still to do after that hugely disappointing first lap of the race for him. After also a hugely disappointing grid penalty that put him in the middle of the pack in the first place. I think we know he's quick because, as I said, he was quick enough to be in the top 6 in. It was a disjointed qualifying session this morning. Right, Arjun Maini, we're going to have another go here potentially. It's not quite close enough, although Maxi Götz goes out wide and the blue and white Mercedes takes the inside curb, starts to draw alongside, starts to think about getting up the inside. But Lucas Stott's trying to fend off Lucas Auer just behind as well. 10th is Feller, 11th Stoltz, 12th is Auer. On board with Lucas now, the driver who's hoping for success here in his home race. Arjun Maini didn't quite get ahead of Maxi Götz, but he got alongside him, but he remains in 6th place. And they're fending off Lucas Stoltz on the way to the turn is Lucas Auer, so he got the better run into turn 6. He's gained a place up to 11th now for Lucas Auer. Right, let's get a replay here, and a run down to turn 1 off the start of the race, the single file start formation due to the 2 formation laps. All good stuff from the front row drivers. Terrific support, even in these conditions, from the fans here at the Red Bull Ring. And this, the moment Sheldon van der Linde went wide out in turn 3 and got on the very slippy escape route. And there, as he got the power down, there was just no grip whatsoever in the car. Very slowly, very annoyingly from his point of view, just went into this slow pirouette spin. On board with Sheldon now. Looked like he was going to save it. As he got on the power though, it all went away. But luckily, he was out of the way of the cars. Nobody collected him. And then Felipe Fraga versus Maxi Götz got a bit tight as well. And that's how Fraga held on to 4th place. Right, Arjun Maini's having another go at Maxi Götz now, and this time he might have his nose in front on the way into turn 3. He's got the inside line. Arjun's been all over Maxi for the last couple of laps. He goes through, gets on the power, but Maximilian Götz comes back at him and will get the inside line for turn 6. So it might be a very brief appearance in 5th place for Arjun Maini. You've also got Thomas Prining bearing down upon them in the Porsche as well, getting closer and closer. Götz is just about going to get their place back, but they're going to push each other out wide, and Prining is there looking more and more menacing. Skidding and dancing on the wide line there is Arjun Maini as he tries to get the power down desperately. You try getting 500 plus horsepower down with next to no grip in these very wet conditions. Terrific driving, terrific skill from these DTM drivers. And Götz, despite briefly losing 5th place, stays ahead for now. But now with 2 cars to try and defend from, because Prining has absolutely joined them. Schumacher in 8th. René Rast has come back to 9th with Auer in 10th place. Ricardo Feller is the one that's fallen out of the top 10. Had a good start yesterday, but it all went wrong on lap 1. And Ricardo Feller has slipped back to 13th place now. Sheldon van der Linde's last lap was a 1:39.0, which was half a tenth slower than the race leader, so his pace is excellent. And he's now started to catch people. He's only 6/10 of a second behind Rolf Inaischen. He's got Alessio De Leda just up the road as well. So it's getting to the point where Sheldon is going to start picking up positions now in the next few laps. And he'll have to roll his sleeves up. He's got nothing to lose in a sense, because he's all the way back down the order anyway. You can see Ricardo Feller coming through just ahead of Marco Vitman, having lost that place. Kelvin van der Linden has made pretty good progress, hasn't he, from 21st? He's up into 16th place now in the black and white Audi, the number 3 car. Right, Nick Cassidy, Philipp Eng, Felipe Fraga, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. That all gets a bit tighter, and side by side coming out of turn 3. This might be another move from Thomas Prining in the Porsche. Again, he gets the gas down early, he gets the tighter line through the turn. The Mercedes of Argentini is out wide now, the blue and white number 36 car. And it should be that the Porsche gets down the inside into Rauch, which indeed he does. But off spin, great save from Argentini. The back end completely out. How he saved that, I'll never know. Great reactions from him, and he not really lost any ground, but he is going to be behind the Porsche. And that's brought David Schumacher much closer to them. Right, this then, the battle for second place. Nick Cassidy, Philipp Eng and Felipe Fraga. Ferrari, BMW, Ferrari. Race leader is gone. 3.2 seconds up the road now is Maro Engel in the Mercedes. Here's a replay then of this, and sure, there was any contact there initially, as Argent saved it though. Just clipped the front left corner and then the right left corner of the Porsche as he straightened up. Yes, possibly was contact there, but it was a terrific save, wasn't it, from Argentini? Looked second best there, but he managed to save the car and keep it more or less on the road without losing any time. So Engel, Cassidy, Eng, the top 3. Fraga 4th, Götz in 5th, Prining in 6th place. Now Lucas Stoltz is the first to make a move. He's come into the pits now. So Lucas Stoltz into the pits for his mandatory stop. Rears are changed, fronts are changed, wets stay on, of course. And carefully away he goes. 6.9 seconds. That is a really good stop from the HRT team, who've been excellent in their pit stops this year. Thomas Prining, luck coming out of turn 3. He's at it again. Might be his 3rd move here coming out of the turn. It was all on the brakes yesterday. It's all coming out of the corner this time, because he's fully alongside Maximilian Götz. He's got the line. He knows pretty much already now he's got the job done. He just doesn't need to outbrake himself. Maxi knows that he can't do anything about it, so he'll just try and go wide on the way into the corner and try to cut back on the way out, which is kind of working here as he gets side by side through turn 5, but he'll be on the outside for the left-hander at turn 6, and it's another place gain therefore for Thomas Prining. So the Austrian continues to impress. He charges up to 5th place now, and if he can just keep Maxi Götz behind him for a couple of corners, he will quickly, I reckon, join this 3-way fight for 2nd place. So Prining, who got back-to-back podiums last time out at Spa with those 2 third-place finishes, a winner, a historic first-ever win for Porsche in the DTM at Norris Ring. Season just gets better and better for him. So the leader, Engel, 3.6 seconds clear now. Cassidy, Eng and Fraga tied together. Prining possibly to come after them as well to make it that 4-way fight for 2nd place. René Rast is 9th, Lucas Auer is 10th, Mirko Bortolotti is 18th, Sheldon van der Linde has started to pick up places now, 21st position for Sheldon. Got to get in the top 10 to get a championship point. But the good news for Sheldon van der Linde is that none of his other rivals are really scoring big either. Rast would get 2 points for 9th, Auer would get 1 point for 10th, Bortolotti's out of the points as well. So it's not a disaster at the moment. It's not great, admittedly, but it's not a total disaster as it stands. Now, Felipe Fraga tries a different line, goes out wide, but it doesn't really work that. He loses traction on the way out of the corner. Philipp Eng in the Ferrari sandwich at the moment with Nick Cassidy, who's on course, if he can win, for a hat-trick. Of course, he's a distant 2nd at the moment. Just in the foreground, you can see the pink Mercedes of Engel, and there down the inside comes Felipe Fraga having a go here at Philipp Eng. He's halfway alongside the Ferrari. He's going to have the inside line for the next turn, but will be on the outside for the left-hander, which immediately follows it. So Eng will make that BMW big and wide, but Felipe's still trying to hang on here. He's almost in the gravel. He is in the gravel trap with 2 wheels, and he'll get it back on the circuit, but he'll join in behind Tommy Prining, and I think Miney and Götz will come past him as well. So brave effort that from Felipe Fraga, but he wasn't given the room to go around the outside. Philipp Eng stuck to his racing line. made the BMW wide, made life difficult for Felipe Fraga, and he just ran out of road. So trying to go forwards onto a podium position, he's ended up losing several places, tucking in just in front of Schumacher and dropping down to 7th place now. So 3 places lost. He goes wide there as well on the way through turn 10. So Schumacher gets a little bit closer. Well, they get a good exit here, and he's already onto the tail look of Maxi Götz as they almost go side by side across the line. He's being squeezed, but he's got the inside line. The Brazilian being brave here. He's got his nose in front, and he gets one of the places back on the uphill rise on the way into turn 3. Schumacher gets very close on the brakes as well, but Fraga gets 1 place back, so that puts him back into the top 6 now. He's having a real fight out there. So Engel leads, Cassidy 2nd, Engel 3rd, Prining is up to 4th, Argentini is up to 5th place now for his best result of the season so far. And then you got Fraga going wide again here. It's going to spin into a spin for Felipe all the way around, beautifully controlled, but he's going to lose places already. He'll lose momentum and more places on the way down to turn 4. He's going to find himself in the middle of the pack, I'm afraid, as we see, catch your breath, Lucas Auer going side by side with Nico Müller now. As if Nico didn't have enough action yesterday, he's having to deal with Lucas Auer now. Another Austrian that's causing him a headache, as did Thomas Prining yesterday, on board with Lucas Auer. This is the battle for 9th place. Lucas in the points now, just in 10th position. Sheldon van der Linde still back in 21st. Mirko Bortolotti still back in 18th. So the only championship contender ahead of this man is René Rast, who's only 2 places ahead of him, currently running in 8th place and on course for 4 championship points. Felipe Fraga trying to keep Dennis Olsen at bay now, having dropped back to 13th place, so 13th after that. And we saw Sheldon van der Linde do exactly the same on lap 1. You go out wide there, and there's 0 grip on that escape route, and into a spin he went. Not a stopping moment, but he survives, and he's still very much in the race. Right, there you can see how the gap has been dwindling here, very much so. It's gone from 2.1 seconds to 0.1 seconds over 2 laps, and Philipp Eng has now got Thomas Prining breathing down his neck, and that's the thing that's going to unnerve any racing driver this weekend, because we know Tommy is absolutely not interested in sitting behind people. He's going to go for it if he gets a chance. He can sense a race victory here, I reckon, Thomas Prining, but he's got to get through these 2, Eng first and then Cassidy, and there's a big gap to try and bridge of almost 5 seconds now to Maro Engel. So Cassidy over the brow, downhill into turn 4. Prining looks right, looks left, not really trying to attack, but just trying to unnerve Philipp Eng. The 2 Austrian drivers together running in, at the moment, 3rd and 4th positions. Yeah, Felipe Fraga behind Dennis Olsen now has lost another place, so he's back to 14th position. Bortolotti was in the background, has gained 1, he's up to 17th place. That's because Kelvin van der Linde has come into the pit, so Kelvin made a bit of progress in that first few laps of the race. Has pitted early as Prining squeezes past Philipp Eng. He got a terrific run coming out of the previous corner. It's all about the traction and the exit speed today. He's getting the power down beautifully. He's driving fantastically well. And Thomas Prining, well, don't entirely rule this young man out of the championship, as Nick Cassidy bails for the pits because he's climbed all the way up to 5th place in the championship after yesterday's result. So in comes Nick Cassidy. That will put Prining for now up to 2nd, and it'll put Philipp Eng 3rd. So Eng's lost 1 and gained 1. Lost a place to Prining, gained 1 because the Ferrari ahead went into the pits. Here's a replay of the very carefully planned positioning here for Thomas Prining. Brave on the curbs, which can't be that grippy, and he went through. Right, there, of course, the team with their pit stop. Anything around 7 seconds is pretty good. 7.8, not too bad at all. And away he goes. It's going to be harder for the teams as well with these conditions to enact a really quick pit stop. So there's Lucas Stoltz, who's already been in the pits. And Luca just coming into the braking zone for the right-hander, the yellow Mercedes at turn 1. Cassidy's still got to get out of the pit lane and get his tyres up to temperature, so I think it's going to be Stoltz the first of the pit stoppers, then Cassidy, and then this man, Kelvin van der Linde. Had a big battle with Maro Engel towards the end of the race yesterday, got past him, but then was put back in the results because he was deemed to have overtaken using more than track limits. So there you see Lucas Stoltz is the leading pit stopper. Nick Cassidy will have fresher tyres for what that's worth, but he's got to get the tyre temperature up for now. It's going to be difficult given the wet weather that we've got. There's still a lot of spray, isn't there? It's showing no signs yet of a dry line coming at this part of the circuit. That rain stopped a while ago now, so it will get drier and drier, and it looks much drier there. It looks on the start-finish straight, looking out of the commentary box window, like there's not very much surface water at all now. It's damp rather than wet. So I think it's probably a good idea, if you can, to try and hang on for your pit stop. Because you never know, it might just dry out. Like the SSR Performance Porsche's bails for the pits. It's going to be another one coming in. Maro Engel, though, 4.1 seconds clear. Didn't have a great lap last time around. A 1 minute 40.0 versus a 1:38.8 for Thomas Prining. Actually, it wasn't a terrible lap. Everybody's doing 140s except for Thomas Prining, who's the fastest man on the track at the moment, apart from Lucas Stoltz, who just did a 1:38.3. So Prining flying after the leader on that previous lap, and he's got the gap down to 3.9 seconds now. Here he comes. So Prining and the Porsche in second, then Eng still third for now. Miney up to fourth. We've got Alessio De Leda into the pits to make his mandatory pit stop in the Grasser Racing Team run Lamborghini. And here we go, Philipp Eng going through. It was Laurens Vanthoor that made his mandatory pit stop, so he comes out of the pits now, and he's going to rejoin probably just in front of Kelvin van der Linde, but Kelvin will have a big go, I reckon, going up the hill in towards turn 2. They see the line is starting to dry out there. Offline, still lots of surface water. Online, it's more wet than very wet now. Damp almost, you'd say. Somehow Vanthoor defends the line on the way into turn 3. There's going to be more heat in the tyres, more grip, more traction for the Audi. And the Abt Sportsline driver should be able to get through, which he does. So Kelvin van der Linde moves ahead of, for now, the Porsche of Laurens Vanthoor. Still, it is Lucas Stoltz, Nick Cassidy as the top two that have made their pit stops. And we've got Philipp Eng coming in now, with Arjun Maini having nosed ahead anyway. So Eng comes in, the second of the front runners to make what's a relatively early stop, coming in now towards the garage. So Philipp Eng comes in, Schubert Motorsport await, and in he comes, hits the spot. Got another one coming in just behind as well, which is Ricardo Feller. There, they change the rears, they change the fronts. Work quickly, but don't panic. Try not to make a mistake. Really good stop, 7.1 seconds. He goes out. Ricardo Feller about to come in just behind in the Audi. Lucas Stoltz, his last lap time, a 1:39.0. There he is. He comes through turn 1 now as the first of the pit stoppers. Nick Cassidy is about a second or so behind him, and then he's going to stay ahead of Philipp Eng, and Philipp will probably drop back a bit more as he gets the tyres up to speed during the next lap or so. So Lucas Stoltz, for now, the virtual leader, but with, realistically, drivers like Maro Engel, Thomas Prining, Arjun Maini, all going to be ahead of him once they make their pit stops, if the pit stops go well. It's just a question of how quickly is the track going to dry now. We've got 17 minutes to the pit window closes. It's hard to really see it drying up enough for them to consider dry tyres at that stage. You never know. Keep mopping up the surface water. Thing is, even if you do get a dry line, if you want to overtake anybody, you've got to go off the line, and off the line is going to stay very wet. And if you dare to put a slick tyre on a curb or a piece of grass, you're probably gone. So it would be a massive risk, but I guess if you're running towards the back anyway, why not try if there's a half chance that it could succeed? So for now, with the pit stops underway, Sheldon van der Linde is up to 16th, Mirko Bortolotti is up to 13th, Lucas Auer is 6th, René Rast is 5th, just ahead of him. The key championship contenders. This driver, 5th in the championship, currently 2nd on track, has closed the gap. He's more than halved the gap over the last 3 or 4 laps. It's just over 2 seconds now. There's David Schumacher coming under fire here from Leon Kohler, the Porsche Super Cup and Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland front runner from last season, making his debut with the Volkenhorst BMW, and he's all over the back of Schumacher here. They're battling at the moment for 8th place. They're about to come into the braking zone. Schumacher keeps the Mercedes ahead for now. Then you've got Muller and Vanthoor just behind as well, running in 10th and 11th positions. So it was Olsen that made the stop, wasn't it? Not Vanthoor. So Vanthoor has gone up from a relatively mid-grid position to 11th place now, just outside the points. Back on board then with Sheldon van der Linde, the championship leader, trying to carve his way through the order after the lap 1 disappointment. You've got side-by-side action between the BMW and the Mercedes once again here, as Schumacher comes under more pressure from Leon Kohler. We've got Muller and Vanthoor side-by-side just behind. Schumacher, though, keeps the inside line, stays cool, keeps the Vitman Mercedes just ahead of the BMW, and Muller managed to fend off Laurens Vanthoor in the background there. The Belgian in the SSR Performance Porsche. It's a really tough season, first season of DTM. Looks good though, doesn't it, that Porsche? Gets good traction. He's all over the Audi for now, so Muller having to work really hard to keep the Belgian behind him. There you can see wet tyres at the ready. Not thinking about slick tyres yet. So Maro Engel has got just a 1.004 second lead now. 1 minute 40.0 for him last time around. 1:39 exactly for Thomas Prining as Marco Vitman comes into the pits, and side by side with Laurens Vanthoor and Nico Muller. Bit of paintwork is traded, trying to come around the outside. That's never going to work, surely. It's much drier into turn 3 suddenly, doesn't it? Muller stays ahead. Now the drivers have got to get used to parts of the circuit that are very wet like this, parts of the circuit that are becoming drier and damp. And that's where the wet tyres on a very dry surface start to overheat. They don't work properly unless there's surface water. You see Rolf Inaischen there running through shop, back in 18th place. He's just ahead of Nick Cassidy in 19th. Nick's already made his pit stop, of course. But Lucas Stoltz is still the first of the pit stoppers at 17th place at the moment. Everybody ahead of him still to make their pit stops. And then Nick Cassidy is going to go down the inside of the Lamborghini and put the Ferrari ahead of the former multiple AM-class champion in the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland. Rolf Inaischen moves back behind him, so Cassidy goes 18th now, trying to keep up with Lucas Stoltz. Given that Cassidy was running in the top 3 before the pit stops, the fact that Stoltz is ahead of him means that Stoltz and the HRT team had a really good stop, a really good strategy. Stoltz has been driving well, and he has a chance here. And here is Thomas Prining ahead of Maro Engel. He's found a way through. So Tommy Prining has got the lead of the race in the Porsche. Just saw the back end of that, and he's already left him behind. He was so much quicker over the last 3 or 4 laps. You can see, look, he's finding wet areas on the circuit because that start-finish line is drying up. So the Porsche weaves to the right, goes back to the left just to try and find some water on the surface to keep the wet tyres cool. Maro Engel starting to struggle now. Here's a replay of how it happened then, on board with Thomas Prining, down the inside, under braking, holds the curbs on the run down through turn 9 and into 10. He's got the deal done. He's got the lead of the race. So nice move that into turn 9 at Hockenheim curve for Thomas Prining. An Austrian leads here in Austria. Maro Engel's 5-second advantage quickly disappeared. So Prining now leads, Engel second, Meini third, Gutz in fourth, Rast in fifth, Auer in sixth, Schumacher seventh, Muller eighth, Vanthoor ninth, Bortolotti into the points, 10th place for now. Fraga trying to get back involved as well, not that far away in 11th place. And right in the background, you can see Sheldon van der Linde is currently up to 14th place as Muller goes wide, struggling with the tyres now into that drier corner. That tempts Laurens Vanthoor to have a look at the inside. Got 27 minutes left to go in the race. So Sheldon van der Linde making a good job of this, trying to get back up the order. 1 minute 40.8, but I think he was probably in traffic on that lap. He's got a bit of clear air in front of him. His next target is Marius Sugg in the Attempto Racing number 66 Audi in 13th place, but he's got to make up the best part of a second before he gets there. And Maro Engel working away, but just cannot live with Thomas Prining, who again goes to the right, goes to the pit wall, hunts for some wet tarmac, and crosses the line with a 1:38.9, 7/10 quicker than Maro Engel, the former race leader. 1:39.1 as well for Arjun Maini, who's also flying in the race in the HRT Mercedes. So he's only 2.1 seconds behind Maro Engel, and he's catching him pretty rapidly as well. 3/4 of a second quicker on that lap. And you can see the very quick turnaround for Thomas Prining, and how quickly he's edged away. A lap and a half ago, he was second. Fast forward 2 minutes, and he's 2.5 seconds clear. Now, Prining absolutely marching on here. No problems with his tyres currently. So there we've got Lucas Auer, David Schumacher, Laurens Vanthoor coming through shot, which means Vanthoor is ahead of Muller now, up to 8th place. Bortolotti in the background in 10th in the points. Maxi Boot looking for his first points of the year in the Muka Motorsport Mercedes. He's 11th currently, just outside the points. And Nico Muller now trying to come back at Laurens Vanthoor, having lost the position on the previous lap. And into the corner they come. Porsche makes a definite wider entry, but looks like it's a good line that on the way into that turn. And Nico follows his example. So 10.5 minutes before the pit window closes. Will it dry out enough for anybody to take a gamble on slick tyres in those 10 minutes? You really want, at this stage, really, a worn, wet tyres. As skidding wide, getting a bit of a tank slapper on there is Laurens Vanthoor. Four-wheel drifting in the Porsche, but keeps it together nicely. There's Lucas Stolz, who's up to 16th place now, the first of the pit stoppers. And looking good here for a potential podium finish, given that he's ahead of Cassidy, who was on the podium before the pit stops happened. He's nearly 3 seconds clear of Nick Cassidy, so good pace for Lucas Stolz at the moment, the German, who's one of the 9 different race winners that we've had so far this season. He's absolutely eating into the advantage of Clement Schmidt, the Austrian in the GRT Grasser-Racing.com Lamborghini. I don't think Clements is going to be able to do anything about Lucas Stolz coming past him. They go together over the start-finish line. Mercedes already has nosed in front, and down the inside he goes. Now look, Lucas Stolz, his next target up the road is Sheldon van der Linde in 14th place, and Sheldon's still got to make a pit stop. He's still got a chance of squeezing some points out of this race, Sheldon, if things go well at the pit stop, if the strategy works. But Lucas Stolz definitely on course for a podium here, maybe even better. But Prining looking great as well, isn't he, in the head of the field. He's 4.6 seconds clear now, Thomas Prining. He's built that lead in next to no time. So over about 5 laps, Prining has gone from being 5 seconds behind to nearly 5 seconds in front. Terrific driving here. He is in a world of his own. Thomas Prining charging on in the Koos Team Bernhard Porsche, looking for his 2nd win of the season, his 1st season in the championship. Stays out, so he's going to push it as late as he can. And why wouldn't you come in? Why would you come in when your car is working this well, when your tyres are working this well? And there, as I said, Arjun Miney's been going well as well, and he's started to really close in on Maro Engel now. So 138.8 for Thomas Prining. Tyre still working beautifully. 140.5 for Maro Engel. 139.6 for Miney. Miney's not as quick as Prining, but he is a lot quicker than Maro Engel, and he could be on the attack by the time they get to turn 3 at the end of this uphill climb now. David Schumacher has come into the pits, so one of the front runners from the top 10 comes in the Winward Mercedes. Schumacher pits as up the hill goes Maro Engel through turn 2 into turn 3. Arjun Miney thinks about it. He's a bit too far back, but he'll get better traction coming out of the corner. Tighter line there, doesn't quite work there. The wider entry seemed to enable Maro Engel to get on the power a little bit quicker. So through he goes and over the line. Dennis Olsen, Rolf Inischen, Marco Vitman just went 3 abreast over the start-finish line in front of me, so they're having a big battle in the middle of the field. As Arjun Miney now looks to come good, coming out of turn 4, down to turn 5. He draws alongside Maro Engel here. This is for 2nd place. He's on the outside line for the left-hander. Arjun Miney looking for his 2nd career DTM podium after being on the podium the final weekend of the 2021 season. He's got the line now. He's going to get down the inside of the way into turn 7 at Graz, and through he goes. 2nd place for Arjun Miney. He gets a bit keen on the throttle. The back end steps out a little bit. Looks spectacular, and it's enough to keep him ahead. So Arjun Miney through then, ahead of Maro Engel, but Maro looking to come back at him. The door is open, but he closes it just in time. Doesn't turn in perhaps where he quite wanted to, for fear of getting a touch there from Maro Engel, but Arjun Miney is doing enough here to get ahead. So good recovery from Maro Engel, but in the end, we couldn't prevent Arjun Miney from coming through. So Miney, 2nd place now. Engel down to 3rd. Thomas Prining ridiculously 7 seconds clear now. 1 minute 138.8 again for him as we get the replay of Arjun Miney's move on Maro Engel. And René Rast is into the pits. So René Rast, 2nd in the championship, comes into the pits. Here he is. Big stop again for the Abt Sportsline team. They've got to get this right. Where is he going to come out in relation to Lucas Stolz? Nowhere near. Stolz has already gone past the start-finish line. Cassidy goes over the start-finish line. So René Rast is not really looking at a podium here.
Be close to Kelvin. He's struggling with overheating rear tyres already.
Going to be close to his teammate Kelvin van der Linde. Team radio says he's already struggling with overheating tyres because that track is, as I said, drying out in parts now. Oh, here he goes. Going to be absolutely side by side with the Lamborghini as they go up the hill. And is he going to be behind or ahead? Rolf Inischen has got the nose in front, but René Rast has got the inside line when they get to turn 3. He won't want to get held up by Rolf Inischen, so he stays up the inside. He makes sure the Audi gets there first. gets on the gas, and he's got the position sorted. He's actually quite a bit ahead of Kelvin van der Linde, who's come out ahead of David Schumacher, but Schumacher's only just made his pit stop. So Schumacher ending up behind Kelvin van der Linde. So Lukas Stolz, the best of the pit stoppers. Then it's Cassidy, second of the pit stoppers. Then Eng, then Olsen, who's crept up, hasn't he? Then Vitman, then Rast, who's looking at the moment to be sixth of the pit stoppers, but still with the likes of Prining, Miney and Engel, and potentially Götz that have got to stop and might get out ahead of him as well. So it's looking like points, but maybe the lower end of the top 10 for René Rast, but that'll still be better than his championship rivals. It's going to be somewhere near Lucas Auer as well when Lucas makes his pit stop. It's going to be in the next 5 minutes or so as you go on board with the race leader, Thomas Prining. 6.7 seconds clear, because Arjun Miney actually just took a bit of time out of him. Arjun has just done his best lap of the race, 1:38.9. It's a slightly slower lap from Thomas Prining, so maybe the tyres are starting to struggle now. We're desperate for some older worn tyres. Don't think slick tyres is quite going to be an option. In certain parts of the course it would be, but there are others that are still pretty treacherous. And there, Lukas Stolz is ahead now of Sheldon van der Linde, but Sheldon hasn't made his pit stop yet. They're 12th and 13th on the road. Rolfin Eischen has come in to make his pit stop in front of the Russell Racing team. And there are going to be a lot more pit stops to come in the next few minutes, because the pit window is getting close to ending now. So there, Sheldon van der Linde fighting for every single position, every single point he could try and muster out of the weekend. So far, hasn't picked a single championship point up from his weekend in Austria, despite looking really strong on Friday. Takes a tighter line there. Lukas Stolz a much wider line. Seems to get better traction coming out of the corner. Stolz carrying on here. His last lap was a 140.3. It's kind of almost like the absolute best out there, but it's on the pace. The quickest driver out there last time around was Arjun Miney with that 1:38. Prining has stayed out then, and again he hunts for some wet track offline before taking back to the racing line, cutting to the left, turning right, down to second gear, and slick tyres are being readied here. So we are going to see a gamble from Winwood Racing Team. Slick tyres, will it work? It's going to be treacherous, isn't it, for the first few laps, but it will come, I think, to them. And Lucas Auer is coming in to make that stop. A gamble here from the championship contender. Maximilian Buch in as well. So slick tyres going on for him. It looks like wet tyres for Maxi Buch. So a gamble here from one of the championship contenders who wants to go big. Will it pay off, or will they come to regret it? It's a great pit stop, 6.6 seconds. So where is he going to end up? Rast is going to be ahead of him. They were close together on the circuit beforehand, but he's even coming out of the pit lane. Look, the car is twitching and dancing around. Ricardo Feller just ahead of David Schumacher coming into turn one as well. They're having a big scrap. They're going to be side by side with Lucas Auer as he comes out of the pits, and he's struggling to get the acceleration down, look, with that wet surface. This is the worst part of the track. This is where there's the most surface water on the run through turn two. Schumacher is nosing back ahead of Feller and has got the inside line. So Schumacher keeps him at bay for now. They're back in 18th and 19th places, but you've got loads of drivers coming to make their pit stop now. The pit window just 2 minutes away from closing. So Schumacher only pitted a few laps ago, back ahead of Feller, and that's more slick tyres being readied, isn't it? So they are going for it. I want to see what happens to Lucas Auer before he absolutely made the decision, but AF Corsa are ready with slick tyres for one of their drivers to come in. Kelvin van der Linde has come in for a second stop, so I presume he's going to go for slick tyres as well, or he's got a problem. Might be a problem. I think he's gone into the garage, so Kelvin van der Linde, I'm afraid, looks like he's out, and Thomas Prining coming down the pit lane, going back out onto the track with a slower stop, 11.5 seconds, but they're all streaming in now. Götz, Vantur, Muller, Bortolotti have all come into the pit lane. Frager in the background, so he's going to be the one getting slick tyres, and Sheldon van der Linde coming in as well. There is Lukas Stolz then, who's the leading pit stopper, but Thomas Prining is going to get out ahead of him just, but it's going to be really tight by the time they get to the top of the hill. He accelerates now in the Porsche. He's been scintillating so far this weekend. Can he get his second win of the season? Can the same be true of Lukas Stolz? Up the hill he goes. Let's see what tyres he got on, but we'll find out shortly when he gets into the turn. I reckon he might have stayed with wet tyres. Stolz, we know he's definitely on wet tyres. And the way he's come out of the corner, I'd say he's stuck to wet tyres. That's a guess, but the pit stop was back in the distance. So he is effectively the virtual leader. He's retained the advantage, but I told you Lukas Stolz that early pit stop, that great stop from HRT, real big chance of a podium here, and it might be a chance of a win, although can he live with the Porsche? Because so quick has been Tommy Prining. So all the pit stops pretty much done now, except for Mining and Engel, who've stayed out. They're going to have to come in on this lap because there's 17 seconds until the pit window closes. They've got to get to the pit line entry to count as a pit stop within the time. 55-minute plus 1 lap race. Prining getting tyres up to temperature, starting to edge away, I think. So in they come, the top two, just in time. A few seconds to spare. And these are the last two to make their mandatory stop. Miney and Engel both also fighting for a podium here. Probably going to be fighting with Lukas Stolz and with one another. So Miney is released. Out he goes. In comes Engel further down the pit lane. Slick tyres ready for Maro Engel. He was struggling with those wets, wasn't he, for the last 10 minutes or so. So here, Prining is going to effectively pick up the lead of the race with then Lukas Stolz. Miney gets out ahead of Engel. And then you've got a whole queue of cars heading into turn 1 now, just behind, including the likes of Philippe Eng, Nick Cassidy, and then Dennis Olsen, who's got great traction coming out of turn 3. So Engel is going to drop back in, slot back in behind René Rast. So the podium might be off the cards now for the pole sitter and early race leader. Here's Nick Cassidy going absolutely side by side with Dennis Olsen up the hill. Dennis had a really good run out of turn 1. He's got the inside line for turn 3. Dennis goes through the Norwegian ahead of the New Zealander. Marco Vitman has crept up the order as well. The green and white Volkenhorst BMW, he's ahead of René Rast. But Maro Engel dropping down the order considerably there with that late pit stop. Bandy's on slick tyres. So big gamble, but I think he felt he was dropping back anyway. He might as well try something different. And out wide there goes Arjun Miney, misses the apex, so Olsen comes through, Cassidy's gone through, Rasty's definitely going to come through, and Marco Vitman will try and knock at the door as well in the BMW. Miney's got the inside line, so I suspect he might have gone slick tyres as well, given how reluctant the Mercedes was to turn into the corner there at Rauch at turn 6. So Prining looking really, really good here for a victory, if the tyres hold up, of course. The time for those on slick tyres to come through. Cassidy under pressure from Rast. 13 minutes plus 1 lap remaining in this race. You're on board with René Rast now. 3 times a winner here at the Red Bull Ring, trying to go around the outside and maybe succeeding. I think he's done it at turn 9. Yeah, easily done it. So Rast goes around the outside and charges ahead of Nick Cassidy. Now Cassidy, we know, with an earlier pit stop, wet tyres, which are going to be struggling. He's going to be really struggling with those tyres that are beginning to overheat now. And again, they all hunt for a wet patch, including René Rast, which tells me he's probably on wet tyres. He'd have stayed well away from that if he'd been on slicks. But I think Nick Cassidy's tyres might be destroyed at this stage with that earlier stop. Well, here's Maro Engel, and he's just behind Laurens Vanthoor, so he's out of the top 10. He's 12th place at the moment. But slick tyres look like it's starting to work at certain points of the lap. Fascinating final 5 or 10 minutes with Maro Engel and a few of the others that have gone for slick tyres, we think. Maxi Big just behind as well. He stayed on wets, didn't he? So that's why, explaining why he got out of that corner so well. So no points as it stands for Sheldon van der Linde, and the gap would be just 3 points to René Rast, who's in 5th place currently, and will score 10 points for that. Thomas Prining is going to move up to 3rd in the championship if he wins this race, and it all stays like this. Well, Marius Zug going straight on, Felipe Fraga going straight on, and with his second spin, right in front of Sheldon van der Linde on the replay there. And that was very close to contact. We've seen from Felipe twice and Sheldon once in this race. You go wide there, off and down that escape road, there's 0 grip. So that was a heart-in-mouth moment for Sheldon van der Linde. But at the moment, he's back in 19th place in this race. He will still go to Hockenheim as the championship leader if it stays like this, but only just 3 points. There's Andy Prining, Thomas Prining's dad to the left of the picture there, watching on the family, enjoying their visit to the DTM. Thomas Prining has been absolutely scintillating. The terrific battle he had with Nico Muller yesterday, and what a drive through from the 6th row of the grid in this race, as Marco Vitman is the next one to get past Nick Cassidy, whose tyres have just gone now, I'm afraid. He'll lose a load of time if you pity, but it's almost worth just having a go now, just coming in and putting the slick tyres on, because I think Nick's just going to go further and further down the order. Got Leon Kohler coming after him as well in the Volkenhorst BMW, teammate to This man, the 2014 and 2016 DTM champion, Marco Vitman, who covers off the line on the way into turn 3, gets himself that 6th place. The Prining lead, Stolz is 2nd, Eng is 3rd, Olsen 4th, having a great drive from a lowly grid position, Rast 5th, Vitman 6th, Cassidy 7th, Kohler in 8th, Schumacher 9th, Vantoor 10th, and for now, the gamble not paying off for Lucas Auer, who's the first to go to slicks. He's back in 15th place. We get Schumacher going side by side here with Vantoor, but holding on to his position. So Schumacher remains 9th, looking for his first points. But Laurens Vantoor has got that bonus point at the moment for the Auto Hero fastest lap of the race, and he's about to charge down the inside of David Schumacher here. Porsche versus Mercedes. The inside line is with him. Schumacher has to be careful not to go into the gravel trap here. We saw Felipe Fraga try and hang on around the outside on the exit to turn 6. That's where he got into a spin earlier in the race. Schumacher got very close to the gravel, but keeps it on the island. But he has lost that position to Laurens Vantoor. So 9th now for Laurens. Schumacher 10th in the last championship paying position. Replay of a very dry line you can see now on the way into the braking zone for turn 1, and the Volcanos BMW of Marco Vitman going through, as we saw a lap or so ago. We're on board with Sheldon van der Linde, who's just done the absolute best first sector of the race. So he's, I reckon, definitely gone slicks as well, and starting to charge, but he's only got 9 minutes 20 seconds plus 1 lap to get 9 places to get up into the championship points. But it's going to get to the point where these slick tyres are suddenly going to get loads quicker than the wet tyres, like seconds per lap quicker. So he's just got to keep it on the road. The longer it goes on, the easier it will be to do that, the more the track will dry up. But of course, he might have to go offline to take a position, and they are going for slick tyres on Schumacher's car now, so he's in for his 2nd stop. So I'm afraid that might just curtail his chances of a first championship points finish in DTM. He's dropped out of the top 10 now. That puts Maximilian Buch into 10th place. He's on course for his first championship point of the season. As we watch the race leader, Thomas Prining, 6.046 seconds clear. You look, you wait, you see nothing, because he's got a massive advantage now over Lukas Stolz in 2nd. Of course, was the first of the pit stoppers. Just done his best lap. In fact, the top 5 drivers have all just done their best laps of the race so far. So Stolz going well here, 137.9. And he's kept his tyres in good condition, hasn't he? As we look at Philipp Eng, who is on course for a podium finish here. In what would be Schubert Motorsport's first points of the weekend. Remember, they're the team championship leaders, so an important result this if Philipp can get 3rd place and 15 points for the team. And they'll then head potentially to Hockenheim as the championship leaders in the teams. It's almost bone dry down the start-finish straight now. There's still damp patches offline. That's why Laurens Vantoor is, Dennis Olsen is hunting for the bit of moisture to keep the tyres cool. And there we've got Nick Cassidy really struggling with his old tyres now, the wet tyres, and he's got Laurens Vantoor bearing down upon him. 8th and 9th they are. Maxi Buch just behind in 10th place in the Mugen Motorsport Mercedes, or easy now, because Maro Engel has started to come up the order as well, hasn't he? The 88 Mercedes, and we know he's gone onto the slick tyres, so Engel's starting to come back into the picture now as Vantoor tries to go around the outside but doesn't. There's contact as Maro Engel comes up the inside of Laurens Vantoor, clashes into the Porsche. He's sent into a spin. You heard the crunch as the 2 cars came together. Maro just couldn't get the car slowed down, and it's because he's on those slick tyres. So more misfortune for him. Smoke bellowing out of the stricken Mercedes as well from the front left corner where the contact was made, and he goes out wide now. He's just ahead of Arjun Maini, who's on the slick tyres as well. So Maro Engel had just started to come up the order. And 9th and 10th, Maximilian Buch just behind in 11th place in the Mercedes, knocking on the door of the points. Here's a replay. Maro Engel just couldn't get the car turned in. Wouldn't have done that deliberately at all, but on the slick tyres, saw the inside line, door was open, tried to get out of it, but he couldn't, because there just wasn't the grip to slow the car down in time. From a different angle, a hell of an impact side on to the right rear corner of Laurens Vantoor. He kept the power buried, span it around, and got quickly going again. You're on board then with the race leader, who's got a 5.5 second advantage with 6 minutes to go. There is Thomas Prining. Last lap, 136.8, 136.9 for Lukas Stolz. Best laps of the race, personal best laps for all of the top 7 drivers now. Eng, Olsen, Rast, Vitman behind are 4th, 5th and 6th. And then Kohler in 7th place in his first weekend at DTM, looking to score some points as well. long way back to Philippines, so maybe Prining did go on slicks. Did Lucas Stotz maybe go for slicks early on? I doubt it, because he was pretty quick straight away and he pitted very early when it was still very damp. On board, Lucas Auer behind Maximilian Gutz. 13th place for Lucas Auer. We saw the live championship points. René Rast is going to score the most points of the top 4 in the championship, as Leon Kohler has a look down the inside of his teammate and team leader Marco Vitman for 6th place. The blonde 23-year-old German Porsche star all over the back of the 2-time champion. And there is Nick Cassidy, who's clinging on to the final championship point at the moment in the AlphaTauri Ferrari with Maxi Bug. Probably not at all interested in 11th, but I think Max is on wet tyres as well, albeit fresher wet tyres for what that's worth. Here we go. This is a replay of Maxi Goetz, Laurens Vanthoor and Lucas Auer. A bit more contact for Laurens Vanthoor, this time from Lucas Auer. So that's how he got ahead. Remember, Laurens Vanthoor was on the back first, having had that spin up at turn 3 with the contact from Maro Engel. So Auer up into 13th place now. And there, another place loss for Max Bug. So he's 11th. And Cassidy's going to lose that last championship point as Maxi Gutz comes through now. 2 places in one corner. He goes through. You've got Maro Engel up the inside of Leon Kohler as well. Arjun Miney just behind on his slick tyre. So it's going to completely change in the last 5 minutes of this race. Through comes Lucas Auer on Nick Cassidy. So he moves up now into 11th place, just outside the points. Remember, the driver ahead is a teammate of his for Winward, Maximilian Gutz. Marco Vitman at the head of a queue. Got some of them on wet, some of them on slick tyres. And it is definitely slick tyres now that are absolutely key. That incident between Engel and Vanthoor is going to be investigated and that'll probably be looked at by the end of the race. But Arjun Miney gets a good line on the way into the right-hander up the inside of Leon Kohler, who twitches under braking, goes wide, and through he goes. So Arjun Miney gains a place, moves up into 8th position now. So Engel there is 6th, Vitman is 7th, Miney is 8th, Kohler in the number 10 BMW is 9th, and Maxi Gutz is 10th. Auer 11th, Cassidy out of the points now and struggling on the tyres. What about Sheldon van der Linde, 17th place at the moment. Miney just drives around Marco Vitman. The slick tyres have just got loads more grip and speed now than the wet tyres, which are being destroyed on these drying tracks. So Vitman can't do anything about Arjun Miney coming through. Just looked like he had another 3 gears there on the Mercedes as he went past the BMW. So Miney now up into 7th place, having a really, really strong drive here. A driver that impressed last year, but as having switched teams and with a really competitive large field this year, struggled a bit more in the first half of the season than we might have expected, but he's been really good the last couple of races. As look at this, Gutz down the inside of Kohler, another place gained, 9th position on the way into turn 1. They can't do anything about him. He's on the slick tyre as well, I reckon, the reigning champion. He's surely going to get past Marco Vitman now. Despite Marco's best efforts to make that BMW wide, I don't think he's going to be able to do anything about the Mercedes. Might keep the place on the way into the corner. He won't keep it on the way out, though, because here comes Maxi Gutz, gets on the power, still side by side here. 2 champions together, 3 titles between them. But Maxi's got the inside line when they get eventually to Rauch at turn number 4. They'll have the line of the Mercedes, should therefore go through, and that will therefore be up to 8th place. Lucas Auer just in the background as well, on board with him now. Next one to have a go at Marco Vitman as he continues to move up the order. He's into the points now, Lucas Auer in 10th place, trying to be 9th. Just ahead of the margin, Miney goes through shot in 7th place. Here comes Lucas Auer as we follow his progress. On that dry line onto the curbs goes Marco Vitman into the left-hander at turn 7. And out of the corner it is where the tyres really struggle, and through goes Lucas Auer with not too much trouble on those slick tyres. So another place gained, carving his way through the field. On board with René Rast, 1.5 minutes left on the clock. And he's not that far behind Dennis Olsen in the SSR Performance Porsche. SSR looking for their first points of the weekend as well. He's hunting for wet ground. Look at Maro Engel on the slick tyres, right behind René Rast now. And Maro is trying to go around the outside and does so easily around the outside of the 3-time champion. Maro Engel, who was on pole, led the race early on, struggled as his tyres went off before his pit stop. Gambled on the slicks, as did a few others, and it's paying off now. So he's on a charge. Next target, Dennis Olsen for 4th place. The inside line is covered. The Porsche almost powerless, though, to stop Maro Engel coming alongside him, and he just cannot get that power transferred with those tyres that are just melting now, the wet tyres, and the Porsche drops back. So Maro Engel up to 4th. He might still get a podium out of this. He's going to have to go like the wind to close the gap to Arjun Maini. He's quite a few seconds up the road. And then you've got René Rast coming under fire from one of his big rivals next up as they go through. With, Maini just behind. It's Philippe Eng that he's trying to catch in the BMW, Maro Engel. And there is Arjun Maini ahead already of René Rast. So Rast loses another place on the wets. That's down to 7th place now. Still 2 places ahead of Lucas Auer, but for how long? Lucas is on the dry tyre. Up ahead you can see Sheldon van der Linde battling. We know he's on the dry tyre. He's side by side with Laurens van Toor, trying to be 15th at the moment. Speckles of water. He's gone through Sheldon van der Linde, so he's got that place. I don't think it's rain, I think it's just water that's been flicked up from the surface here. As you see, the race leader coming through, Thomas Prining. Only 2 laps to go. He got to the line with about 5 seconds, 6 seconds left on the clock. So clock runs down to 0. It's going to be 2 laps to go, including the one we're on. This 55-minute plus 1 lap race. Prining leads, Stoltz second, Eng in third. Engel, though, 1.6 seconds adrift, is flying after him. On that last lap, he was 3 seconds quicker than Philippe Eng. So surely Maro Engel, when we see him next, is either going to be right behind Philippe Eng or maybe even in front of him for the final spot on the podium. Here he comes, he's going to be right behind him. So lap and a half to try and find his way through and get a podium finish out of this for Maro Engel. He's pushing on. He's had 1 podium this year, a 2nd place finish at the Lausitz-Ring. And here they come onto what's almost a completely dry section of the circuit now. Philippe Eng, who must be on the wet tyre, is struggling, and he'll see that pink Mercedes getting bigger and bigger in the mirrors, and then he'll probably see it coming past him in about 2 seconds' time, because out of the corners, the wet tyres just aren't working anymore. So through comes Maro Engel to get himself just through now and onto the podium. Made light work of that. And then he's going to have Arjun Maini bearing down upon him by the end of the lap as well. So Maini will surely be ahead of Eng before the end of the race and up into the top 4. Right, replay on board with Lucas Auer versus championship rival René Rast. Lucas is on the slick, René is on the wet tyre, and Rast can't do anything about it. So Lucas Auer comes through, and of the top 4 in the championship, he's the one that's going to score the most points now in this race, albeit he's only in 8th place, but that could still change with time just about left on the clock to get 1 or 2 more moves done. Last lap of the race it is. Thomas Prining has been sensational here in this race. The team have delivered a great strategy, a great car, and Thomas, as he did yesterday, has pulled off some terrific moves, albeit in a very different fashion than he did yesterday. It's all into the corner on the brakes yesterday. Today it's all been coming out of this corner where he's got those moves done. Lucas Stoltz and the HRT team with a great effort as well for 2nd place. They're the top 2. Maro Engel is a long way back, but 3rd place looks to be... here's Arjun Maini. He's already got ahead of Philippe Eng and is into 4th place. Sheldon van der Linde's got across the line in 12th place. 11th place is Mirko Bortolotti, but there's 5.3 seconds between them. I think they're on the same tyre. So it looks like neither of those 2 is going to score championship points. René Rast is at the moment on course for 1 championship point, which would put him on to 118. Lucas Auer is in 7th place as Maxi Götz and Nico Müller down the inside of Dennis Olsen. Well, hold fire on the points because it might be about to change. René Rast onto the tail of Dennis Olsen now as well. Could be looking at maybe a couple of championship points here if he can get past the Norwegian. As over the brow comes the race leader, Thomas Prining. He's going to win this race by more than 5 seconds. The checkered flag is almost in sight. Through the final corner he goes, and for the 2nd time this season, Prining wins.
Prining time. Yeah, mate. Well done. Thank you.
That's a very happy team radio, isn't it? Thomas Prining, tremendous effort by him and the team. An Austrian wins here in Austria. 2nd place to Lucas Stoltz. Maro Engel 3rd. He's still celebrating as over the line side by side go Maini and Eng for 4th and 5th. Auer 6th place is the best point scoring wise of the championship contenders at the head of the points. Except for this man, of course, because you can throw his name bang into the hat now for championship contenders. Thomas Prining, who was nowhere after a first few rounds in terms of points scored. He might just be a big title threat going into that final weekend of the season, because he has got 25 championship points for another race win. And that is going to move him on to into big title contention. I'll do the maths quickly. We'll get the championship points up for you, but Thomas Prining there, 25 points, a second win of the season. Lucas Auer is the next best championship contender. He gets 8 points for 6th position. René Rast finished in 11th place in the end, behind Dennis Olsen, so didn't get a championship point. No points for van der Linde in 12th. But Bortolotti came through to 9th, right at the end of the race, to pick up 2 championship points. Replay of the moment that Thomas Prining became a double race winner in the DTM. But by my reckoning, 130 points still for Sheldon van der Linde. René Rast will slip 1 point behind Lucas Auer. 118 for Lucas, 117 for René Rast, and 116 points. This is by my quick maths. We'll get it confirmed, but Thomas Prining, 4th in the championship, and just 2 points between Auer, Rast and Prining. Sheldon van der Linde didn't score any points, but his closest rivals didn't get many either. So Thomas Prining, the race winner here, and a dramatic round 14 of DTM 2022, wins by 4.6 seconds and has definitely the best radio celebration of the year so far. Lukas Stoltz second, Maro Engel third, Arjun Maini, great drive for his best result of the year in 4th, Philipp Eng 5th, Lucas Auer rounding out the top 6, Maxi Götz 7th, Nico Müller 8th, Mirko Bortolotti gritted his teeth on that final lap to come through and get a couple of valuable championship points in 9th, with Dennis Olsen getting a point in 10th place. René Rast struggling to 11th on the wet tyres at the end. Sheldon van der Linde just running out of time on the slick tyres to get himself up into the points, finishing back in 12th place. Fastest lap of the race went to Lucas Auer as well, so actually you get a bonus point for that as well. So he'll get 9 points, not 8, and that will give him 119. So it'll be 3 points between the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of the championship. As into the arms of the team runs Thomas Prining. What a driver. Fantastic effort by him and by the team. And you don't need to see his face to see what the expression, or guess what the expression will be. Absolute delight here. He has arrived. Ever since Imola, he's looked the real deal, hasn't he? And yeah, it didn't take him many weekends to get up to speed in DTM, did it? That's for sure. And Lukas Stoltz with a great effort as well. Useful points for Mercedes in the Brand Championship as well, closing the gap to Audi, because their cars finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th and 7th in the race. They've got a load of points, Mercedes, in that race. The auto hero, fastest lap of the race, bonus point goes to Lucas Auer. And you wouldn't be surprised, would you, at the end of 2 weeks' time in Hockenheim, to find out that the eventual champion had won by just a single point. It's that kind of season. So you never know. It might be the difference at the end of the year. Good drive that from Lucas Auer. Be delighted that he and the team opted to go for slick tyres. The first one to do it, wasn't he? Everybody else followed suit. It's a brave effort, brave decision, but one which definitely paid off, because those on the wet tyres really fell back at the end. Well done as well to Rupert M Racing and Maro Engel for their 3rd place finish. So there is Tommy Prining, the race winner. He now becomes only the 3rd driver this year to win more than one DTM race, and he puts himself absolutely into the championship fight. So Sheldon van der Linde stays on 130 points. Lucas Auer 119. Blimey, my maths were right. 117 for René Rast and 116 for Thomas Prining. So you got 14 points between the top 4 in the championship, with 58 points still available at Hockenheim. It's going to be a thriller.
Behind you. You are P2 in the championship, 12 points to Sheldon. P2 in the championship, 12 points to Sheldon. Good job. Thank you, man.
Brilliant, guys. Absolute legendary corner.
An absolute legendary call, says Lucas Auer. There they replayed the team radio where Lucas Auer found out that he is now 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. All looked a bit downbeat, didn't it, after he got that 10-second penalty yesterday? But that got rescinded, and now he's had another good result here. So we've seen Maro Engel make his way up onto the podium. We now see Lukas Stoltz up onto the podium as well. Not quite the race win he got at the Nürburgring, but still a very good effort from him and from the team for his 4th podium finish of the year. Next up, we will have the team presentation. Of course, the winning team is Kuss Team Bernhard. Jennifer Leising, who is the team manager of the team, has been invited to collect the trophy. So Jennifer shakes the hands of the drivers and she makes her way up onto the team podium now. And Jennifer will be presented the trophy by another of the ski legends here this weekend, Thomas Dressen. So well done to Jennifer and Kuss Team Bernhard. Remember, they've only got one car, one driver in this championship. They really have done a fantastic job in 2022. But the winner, who's going to get a massive cheer now, is Thomas Prining in Austria, the home driver. Dream day. Here we go, bit of a delay. Just a bit of confusion, and now, cool as the cucumber, smiles all round. Thomas Prining gets a hug from his team manager, Jennifer Leising, onto the top step of the podium. And this could be emotional because he's about to hear the Austrian national anthem here at the Red Bull Ring. But first, a legend of motorsport back for a second day, Jorge Lorenzo. 3 times a MotoGP world champion, 5 times a motorcycle world champion, presents the trophy, looking cool as you like with the sunglasses on, to Thomas Prining, who kisses the trophy, lifts it aloft, and beams. He is a championship contender. Tommy Prining, the race winner. You saw there his race helmet, special edition race helmet this weekend here in Austria, paying tribute to something that had a big influence on his career, the former team manager Walter Lechner, who sadly passed away in recent years. So Tommy Prining, that'll be even more special to take the victory this weekend. Thomas Prining, Lukas Stolz, Maro Engel, your top 3 in round 14 of DTM 2022. They smile, they pose for the photos, and then they're about to let rip with the champagne. Maro Engel's first away with that one. Jennifer Leising doesn't run like we saw yesterday, the team manager of FF Course, but she still gets splattered, of course, but she doesn't fall over or drop a trophy, so that's good. She's learnt the lesson. And a very wet but very, very happy Thomas Prining back over to the team, poses with the trophy, gets a rapturous applause from the home crowd here in Austria. I think he won quite a few fans with his racing yesterday, and he's won a few more today. So Tommy Prining up to 4th place in the championship, a 2-time race winner now in DTM. And remember, this is only his 7th weekend in the championship. Super slow-mos then of our top 3 finishers. It was an up and down race for Maro Engel. You always want to win from pole position, but given where he was with about 10 minutes to go, I think he'll be happy with that podium finish. Lukas Stolz, with a brave strategy as well, gets 2nd place in his 4th podium finish of the year. Thomas Prining off the back of his win at the Norris Ring, and then of course his 2 podiums back-to-back at Spa. He's a race winner once again, his 4th podium of the year, and that also now extends his points haul, meaning he's got 6 points finishes out of the last 6 races, which is why he's rocketed up to 4th in the championship. A great race. Let's get some reaction now down in the pit lane with Verena.
I've got Lukas Stolz here, who really fought so hard. You came from P11 to 2nd place. You've got to be happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. Still a little bit unhappy about my qualifying, but yeah, to get so far ahead in the race is an awesome feeling. I think at some stage we were even fighting for the lead, but in the end, I made a rain dance in the car because I saw Maro was coming on slicks. So yeah, for the fans, I think it was a really nice race.
Absolutely, and also it's your 4th podium, so I guess for the final race in Hockenheim, it can continue like this, right?
Well, I hope so. Yeah, Nürburgring still feels special, but to finally score a podium here and get the ball home is awesome feeling. And thanks to the teams, they played it out today. They did an awesome strategy. Was today the guys behind the laptop.
All right, well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Lukas. And we're going to try to grab Maro. Maro, I've got him here as well. So he's the man who started in pole position, and then it was pretty tough. But in the end, I mean, he did such a great job. He did whatever he could. Hey, Maro, coming from pole position, ending up on 3rd place. I mean, it was tough out there, and you gave it your best. And in the end, I mean, you're getting closer and closer. Does it still feel good to have P3?
Yeah, for sure. Podium feels good. We had just ended up too high on the tire pressures in the first stint, and then I really felt that it was going to be dry enough at the end, so we didn't want to pit early. And since we couldn't commit to pitting early, we had to stay out until the end to wait until slicks. But yeah, and then yeah, sorry to Lawrence that unfortunately he got spun around, but I don't think there was anything I could do because he was fully left on the track and just cut across the track to the right. And at that point I was there, and obviously with being on slick tires, I had a lot more grip and more speed, and yeah, so unfortunately that situation happened.
All right, well, congratulations, you did a great job.
Thank you.
And here's your commentator.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Yeah, well done to Maro Engel. A great drive for him to take that third place, charging through on the slick tyres at the end of the race. And he built a nice lead to start with, didn't he? But as you said there, tyre pressures were a bit high. So once we got into sort of 10, 11 laps of the race, it started to go off the boil a bit. But he had built a 5-second lead. He had a perfect first few laps of the race as we get some super slow-mo replays here from Lucas Stoltz as well, who's picked up a really valuable 18 points. Still very much in the championship fight as well. He's 6th in the standings on 102 points now, so 28 points between the top 6 in the championship. He's all with 58 still available, and there at one of the 2 spins that we had for Felipe Fraga, spinning at the same point at which we had the spin for the championship leader Sheldon van der Linde, all the way back on the first lap of the race. Been 3 races this year, and 3 races in the last 2 weeks where Sheldon has almost caught up into the points from a lowly position at the end of the race and just run out of time, frustratingly for him. Right, so Mercedes, I say, got a bag load of points today with those results, and they have actually moved ahead of Audi now, having been 30 odd points behind to the top of the championship, but only 4 points between Mercedes and Audi, so that will go down to the wire as well. The manufacturer championship going down to Hockenheim, so we're going to have to get the calculators out at full speed in 2 weeks' time to keep abreast of the teams championship, which Schubert Motorsport have been leading, and then also of course of the drivers championship, which I'm certain is going to go right down to the last race of the season. It's in 2 weeks' time. Trust me, you don't want to miss it at Hockenheim. 2 races, 2 qualifying sessions to go, and we have zero idea about which driver is going to end this 2022 season as the champion. So Schubert Motorsport will go to Hockenheim still with the championship lead on 185 points, 142 for Abt Sportsline, and no points in the end in that race for Red Bull AlphaTauri AF Corsa, so they stay on 129 points, 3rd in the championship. So all 3 championships still wide open, in particular the Drivers' Championship. Super slow-mos then of a great moment of joy for Thomas Prining, your race winner here in Austria, a day that he, his friends, his family, his team and his supporters will never ever forget. Super slow-mos from your race winner, one of the many drivers that will arrive at Hockenheim in 2 weeks' time as a championship contender. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. From me, Chris Hartley, that's all for now. Let's get back down to Verena.
So thanks to this man, we saw a lot of action yesterday in the race, but today even more. I mean, congratulations, what a victory. You came all the way from P7 to victory, and I see a big smile in your face. You've got to be so excited.
Yeah, I'm over the moon. Winning in DTM is great, but winning at home is even better, so I've lost my voice, I'm sorry.
Well, hopefully you'll get back. Let me just ask another question. It's your 2nd victory here. As you said, it's your home race, so that's phenomenal. That gets a little emotional, so sometimes it goes in the voice. But also you're the 4th in the championship now, so you've got 2 weeks break, and then we've got the finale at the Hockenheim ring, so who knows? I mean, it's all about the championship now.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't had a look at the standings now. I'm just happy we won. We're going to celebrate today. Sorry.
Oh, you poor thing. All right, well, you get a sip of water, but Thomas, congratulations. What a phenomenal victory. And yeah, that's it from here, from Austria. And yeah, he needs to grab some water. And we're so excited. In 2 weeks, we have the grand finale at the Hockenheim ring. You do not want to miss it, because at this point, it's all open, and who knows who's going to grab the title. It'll be so thrilling. So see you then. Bye-bye.